Welcome to another episode of Mythic Drafting, where today we'll be taking you through how to draft blue and white knights in March of the Machine. This video is one of our 10-part series on how to draft each of the 10 colour pairs in the upcoming set, designed to help you in your pre-release as well as your first drafts on Arena, Magic the Gathering Online, and of course in real life. If you like this video and this type of content, please be sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel as it really helps us out. We'll be posting more of this type of content as well as drafts when the new set is up on Arena. Without further ado, let's get into how to draft blue-white knights as a first look. And first things first, we always like to look at our signpost uncommons. Now in this set, there's 2 uncommons in each colour pair, which give us an idea of how we want to be drafting the colour pair. The first of these for blue-white is Marshal of Zhalfir, which is blue and a white for a 2/2 human knight that has the abilities other knights you control get +1/+1, and for blue and a white you can tap another target creature. Now with just one of these abilities, this card would already be quite strong, as an efficiently costed creature that can beat down and then can tap something down, and also boosting all of your other knight cards. But as we'll see, blue-white I think is going to be a deck that wants to have at least 12, even more knight cards in its deck. I think the ideal version of this deck will have every creature being a knight, aside from the most absurd bombs. So effectively this card is just going to boost your entire team and be an anthem for them all, while also being able to tap down their best creature. And naturally this card gets even better in multiples. So if you see this early, it's a great reason to go into blue-white. And then Invasion of Xerx is the battle for this colour pair. So it's 2, a blue and a white for a battle, which has 4 counters on it. And then when it enters the battlefield, you can return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. And then if you do manage to deal 4 damage to it, it flips into Vertex Paladin, which is a flying creature with power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control. Now, I think this is one of the better examples of a battle, in that the battle cards I really like are the ones that clear the way to enable you to attack into it. So Invasion of Xerx can clear that blocker, and then you can immediately attack into it, and ideally, if you've already played 2 creatures with 2 power, you might be able to flip it the turn you play it. And then Vertex Paladin, as we'll see, is going to be really big in the blue-white deck, as I think blue-white is going to want to have a lot of creatures, and some cards in blue-white also create more than 1 creature, meaning that this might be a 3/3 the turn you flip it, but if you can play another creature or 2 creatures on turn 5, it's going to be a 5/5 fly that's beating down in the air, and it's going to be really, really tough to stop, and going to be an incredibly quick clock. The next cards that are really powerful in this is another invasion, an invasion in white, Invasion of Belenon, which is 2 and a white for a battle with 5 counters on it, and when it enters the battlefield you create a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with vigilance. Now that's not the most efficient card and isn't going to be great unless you can actually flip it. However, if you can manage to deal 5 damage to it, it turns into an enchantment with creatures you control get +1/+1. So we're already seeing a bit of a theme here, in that white, and particularly blue-white, cares about having a lot of creatures and then pumping them up. Now, I think in this instance, you're going to be able to justify playing a less efficient creature in the 2/2 vigilance for 3 mana, by the virtue of the fact that it's a knight, and that you have the potential upside of flipping it and pumping your entire team. The next powerful uncommons are a set of 3 different knights. The first being Zhalfirin Lancer, which is 2 and a white for a 3/3 human knight, and whenever another knight enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 and gains vigilance until end of turn. So this is already a fine card in the fact that it's a 3 mana 3/3 and it's a knight. However, it rewards you for every knight that you play, and it's going to quickly be able to pump up and be able to attack for 4 and even 5 mana at a vigilance, and then be back on blockers to protect yourself from your opponent's battles, or just helping you win a race. And then the next one is the Xerx Strobe Knight, which is 2 and a blue for a flying vigilance 2/2. Then you can tap it to create a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with vigilance, and you can only activate this ability if you've cast 2 or more spells this turn. So this is already an extremely efficient creature in that it's able to be a flying 2/2 vigilance flyer, And then if you can actually cast 2 spells the turn after you play it, you can attack for 2 damage and then tap it and create another blue-white knight 2/2. This is a card that I think has the ability to really push blue-white decks over the edge and is a reason to play 1 costed spells as well as a lot of 2-drops in your deck. As if you can play this and then play 2 spells the next turn, you're going to be able to create another 2/2 and really flood the board with a lot of creatures and put a lot of early pressure on your opponents. The next one is Norn's Inquisitor, which is 1 and a white for a 1/1 Phyrexia Knight. However, when it enters the battlefield, you incubate 2. So you create a token with 2 1/1 counters on it, and it has 2 mana to transform this artifact, and it transforms into a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature, so a 2/2. But then it also has, whenever a permanent you control transforms into a Phyrexian, you put a 1/1 counter on it. So this specific card creates an incubate 2, but when you flip it, if Norn's Inquisitor is still in play, it becomes a 3/3. I think this card is just really strong in general, and there's a fair bit of incubate in the set, so it's effectively another quasi-anthem booster theme for all those cards. However, the fact that it's a knight and it creates 2 separate bodies for 2 mana, and then a further 2 mana later, it's just an extremely efficient card. It's going to help you beat down early, you're going to get value from it, and then the more incubate you can put in your deck, the better this card's going to be. The next thing we're going to be looking at is the improved commons in this set. So we want to look at the commons that are even better in blue-white knights, and also have a look at some of them cards that you might be able to get later on in the draft, but are still good in your deck. The first is Order of the Mirror, which is 1 and a blue for a 2/1 human knight, and then for 3 and a white Phyrexian mana, you can transform it, only as a sorcery, into Order of the Alabaster Host, which is a 3/3 Phyrexian knight, which when it becomes blocked by a creature, that creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Now, the first side of this isn't amazing, in that it's a 2/1 for 2, which just no longer stands up, but the fact that you can flip this on turn 3, or at a later stage into a 3/3 that's extremely hard to block, is very, very strong. One of the most important things about limited formats in recent history is spending all of your mana every turn. And this is such a strong card in that you can play it for 2, and then if you don't have a 3-drop, you can still use your mana for that turn and flip it into a 3/3 and still have some presence on the board. It's also a knight on both sides, and it's just a good filler card at the 2-drop spot in your blue-white decks. The next card is Preening Champion, which is 2 and a blue for a flying 2/2 Bird Knight. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 blue and red elemental creature token. This is an extremely efficient card that I think is going to go in every single blue deck. However, it's made slightly better by the fact that it's a knight in blue-white, and I think it's a card that you're going to want a lot of. You're getting the Windrake, but you're also getting a 1/1 elemental creature token, which goes really well with the go wide theme of blue-white, and also goes well with some convoke cards as well. The next card is Sigiled Sentinel, which is 2 and a white for a 2/2 human knight with vigilance, and then it has backup 1, which is when this creature enters the battlefield, you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature, and if that's another creature, it gains the following ability until end of turn. So effectively, this card can come down as a 3/3 vigilance, or it can come down as a 2/2. However, it will give another one of your creatures +1/+1 permanently, and then vigilance for just that turn. So for example, you could play Order of the Mirror into Sigiled Sentinel and make your Order of the Mirror a 3/2 vigilance for that turn, bash them, and then on the next turn, you could flip Order of the Mirror into a 4/4, which is extremely hard to block. I think backup is going to be quite a strong ability in that if you can chain backup abilities, it's going to be really hard for your opponents to keep up, as each of your creatures will outpace them every turn. The next improved common is Protocol Knight, which is 3 and a blue for a 3/4 human knight, and when it enters the battlefield, you tap target creature an opponent controls. Then, if you control another knight, you put a stun counter on that creature, meaning that it doesn't untap the next turn. Instead, you remove the stun counter from it. So I think this card is fine in blue decks that don't have a lot of knights, but if you have a lot of knight cards, then this is just an amazing card, because it's going to tap down one of your opponent's blockers for that combat phase, and then the combat phase on your next turn, which is going to help you defeat battles, or just push damage through and win the game. The next card is Knight of the New Coalition, which is 3 and a white for a 2/2 Vigilance Human Knight. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with Vigilance. So this card is just really efficient, giving you 4 power and 4 toughness on Vigilance bodies, but it's also giving you 2 knights, which means that if you have the Lord or other Anthem effects, you're boosting those power and toughness over multiple creatures. It's also relevant for Convoke, which is an ability that's on Thunderhead Squadron, which is 5 and a blue for a 3/4 flyer, Human Knight, and it has Convoke, which means that your creatures can help cast this spell by tapping each of them for 1 mana or 1 mana of that creature's color. This shows us the other payoff for having a lot of creatures on the battlefield, in that there are quite a few spells in blue and white with Convoke, and you'll effectively be able to use your creatures to cast them. Now, there are some instant spells in this set that have Convoke as well, which means that you can attack with your Vigilance Knights. You can deal the damage, you can pass the turn, or you can use them in combat to Convoke to pay these instant spell costs. It's a really powerful ability and something that's going to make combat really complicated in this set. Now, the reason that we want to be playing blue-white knights isn't just the boring commons, it's the rares and the mythics. The first one in this that is really strong is Knight Errant of Eos, which is 4 and a white for a Convoke creature, 4/4 Human Knight. And when it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards with mana value X or less from among them, where X is the number of creatures that convoked Knight Errant of Eos. You put the revealed cards into your hand and then you shuffle your library. This card is just really strong, and if you manage to have 3 or 4 or 5 creatures, you can tap all of them to pay Knight Errant of Eos, and then effectively you're most likely, if you've stacked your deck with creatures, going to draw 2 creatures and have card selection. Now, depending on your build, you may actually want to draft your deck in a certain way so that most of your creatures are 3 and 2 drops. This will effectively allow you to convoke less creatures and pay mana to not have to tap down your whole team, but still make it likely that you're going to draw 2 cards off of this. However, you don't have to go to any deck building parameters to just not see that this is a great card. It's also a knight, which is amazing in this set, and it's an efficient creature itself. But the mythic that you'll all be hoping to open if you want to be in blue-white knights is the Invasion of New Phyrexia, which is not only one of the best battles in the set, but probably one of the best cards in the set overall. It's X and a blue-white for a battle with 6 counters on it, but when it enters the battlefield, you create X 2/2 white and blue knight creature tokens with Vigilance. So for 5 mana, this is giving you 6 power and 6 toughness. For 6 mana, it's giving you 8 power and 8 toughness. And then for 7 plus mana, it's effectively winning you the game. And it's giving you the power and toughness and bodies you need to win the battle and flip it into Teferi Akosa of Zalfir, which is a planeswalker with 4 loyalty, which has 3 abilities. The first being +1 loyalty, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard a creature card. -2, you get an emblem with knights you control get +1/+0 and have ward 1. -3, taps X creatures you control. When you do, shuffle target non-land permanent and opponent controls with mana value X or less to its owner's library. This is a pretty strong planeswalker, and the fact that you get this if you win the battle after creating all of those knight tokens is just really strong. It's going to buff all of your knights, gives you card selection, and also has the power to protect itself with its -3. Invasion of New Phyrexia is one of the best cards in the set, and you should be taking it first pick and playing blue-white knights if you can with it. Finally, let's summarize what blue-white's game plan is overall in draft. The first is pretty clear from this video in that knights matter. A lot of the cards are creatures with knights in them, and a lot of the other cards in blue-white care about knights. And I think this is one of those good examples of a draft deck that really snowballs the more knights that you put in the deck. The more you commit to the theme, the more each of your cards is going to benefit from the other cards, and the more your payoff cards are going to consistently be able to hit in games. The other thing that I think is important is that the deck wants to have aggressive creatures and a pretty low curve. We've seen that there are some battle cards that you're going to want to flip, And I think as well, this is the type of deck that you're going to want to get damage in early before your opponents can stabilize and pick off your small, cheaper costed creatures that aren't as powerful as some of the green cards and the blue and black control decks. It's also a deck that definitely wants to go wide. This is not only so that you can push damage through in the early stages of the game, but later on if your opponent's at 5 or 6 life, you're going to want to be able to swing out and then just get some creatures through and deal the final points of damage. Not only this is, the wider you go, the cheaper the convoke cards and the better that they become in this deck. If you're able to cast instant cards on your opponent's step while you're tapped out through convoke, or just have turns where you play a lot of creatures and then use them to cast convoke cards as well, it's going to snowball the game out of control and take it out of your opponent's hands. The other important thing I think about this deck is that it needs some finishing options. So make sure that you're putting a little bit of bounce and removal spells in the deck to make sure that you can push through those final points of damage by clearing your opponent's blockers. But that's it for Blue-White in this set. I hope you enjoyed drafting Blue-White Knights. It's probably one of the decks that I'm most excited to draft on Arena when it comes out soon. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel.